Hi, Shannon O'Flaherty here. You know how it feels when somebody doesn't respect your boundaries and they cross that line and you feel like, what, do you not see me? Do you not hear me? What is the problem here? But really, what I want to ask you is, have you actually communicated your boundaries clearly? Boundaries are not just a line in the sand. Boundaries can be energetic, they can be feelings, and it's something that we need to own and take responsibility for and let other people know. Because when we can communicate our boundaries clearly, then other people know where they stand with us. And then we're going to be less triggered because people are going to be doing less things that really annoy us. And then we're going to flow more easily. So there's all sorts of different boundaries we can have. We can have physical boundaries, like our literal space around us, right? These days, a lot of people have the shoes off in the house policy. So it depends. Boundaries, it also depends on how rigid you are with them, how flexible you are with them, but your general boundary. I live in a shoes off in the house place. But if somebody comes in with their shoes on, it's not going to be the end of the world for me either. But ideally, please take off your shoes. Some people have a no smoking house. I also have one of those. These days, most people won't smoke or vape in your house unless they ask you first. And I'm happy for somebody to open the door and go sit outside and have a smoke, but not in my house. So those are physical boundary ways. And our physical self, I'll talk about sexual in a minute. Like some people hug, I'm a hugger. Some people do the handshake thing. So these are all boundaries. Most of these we don't need to verbalize. It's obvious if we're hugging people, we go in for it, right? It's obvious if we're a handshaker. And most people have enough awareness and respect to see if it's a house with shoes or not, or people will ask and check in with you. But we also have sexual boundaries, of course. Who, what, when, where, how much, how long, and also past lovers. What do you need to discuss with your sexual partner? And it's amazing how many people do not have the sex talk. And then they're literally sometimes flailing around in the dark thinking, well, why is this not working? Because we need to speak up about what we like, how we like it, when we like it, and how it needs to be. And so that we can feel safe and feel held. Because boundaries help us feel safe. They help us communicate much more effectively. They help us keep our focus on what we're doing, right? Like, especially if you work from home, if you work for yourself and you're scheduling out your time, then maybe certain hours of the day are just for work and not a time to be disturbed. And so these boundaries need to be set, because this is how we can get through our life much more easily. We can also have emotional and mental boundaries, which I would call energetic, which means not being criticized or being invalidated, or even having to rescue someone, right? Feeling safe to be able to communicate what it is that we're feeling, being seen, being heard. All of this falls around emotional and mental boundaries. So if you have somebody who's making you feel bad about the things that you say and think, that's really not cool. And I would also say that this has to do with space. So if you need some space, you ought to be able to have some space. That might fall into the physical and literal boundaries too, but sometimes the space we need is up here, right? Like, I need some quiet time, right? When I lived with my best friend for a while, she liked to get up in the morning and listen to Radio 4 first thing. Well, I thought that was just noise in my head. And I asked her if she could please not listen to Radio 4 in the kitchen. And so she said, I like to listen to Radio 4 in the morning, but because we were sharing space, she moved the radio to her bedroom so she could listen to Radio 4 in the morning before coming out into public space, so that I didn't have to have all of that noise in my head. So those were boundary things, right? And we found a way that it could work for both of us. We also have spiritual and religious boundaries. So I like to pray over my food before I eat it, but I don't expect everybody at the table to sit there and wait for me while I'm praying. I do bless everybody's food at the table, and some people are respectful and sit and wait, and some other people just dig in. I'm not going to take it personally because it has nothing to do with anyone else. That's what I want to do. I also bless my car before I drive it anywhere. Some people have different religions, right? Some religions want to come and knock on your door and drag them into their religions. I'm not really into that, but as long as they can politely receive a thank you, no, I'm not interested, and leave me alone, that is fine. Other people have different religions and they want to go to church every Sunday, but why drag your whole family if they're not into that, if they don't believe those things? So these are boundaries too. And we think that because we're in a family situation or in a partnership or with everybody, that everybody's going to be doing what we're going to do. But that's not really the best way forward, because people, different strokes for different folks, right? As they say. We also have financial and material boundaries. So financial boundaries, like being paid on time. If you're working for someone, being paid when they say they're going to pay you, or if you're in a contract, paying your contract on time. And material, respecting other people's possessions, especially if you're living in their house. You know, maybe some people are all about coasters on the table or something else. I don't know. I can't come up with something right now, although my father is visiting me right now and he's 87. So he's pretty well set in his ways and he brought all of his creature comforts, but he's also extremely respectful, I've noticed. And do you mind if I do this? And do you mind if I do that? And does this bug you? And does this bug you? I'm like, no, Dad, it's pretty cool. Just be who you're going to be. I'm groovy. I gave him all the space that I could offer up, and he's settled in. He's found a way to settle in. But when he did, he checked with me, because he's in my space, if this is okay. And in the kitchen, he's like, tell me your routine. Tell me how everything works so that I can follow your routine. And I think that's really great, because he's respecting my boundaries and he's respecting my routine because he's in my space. When I'm in his space, hopefully I was just as good as he was with his routine. And time is another thing. Show up. Show up when you say you're going to show up. Show up on time. I know that there's like a social lateness thing, but a social lateness thing is really maybe 5 to 10 minutes if there's a timestamp, especially if dinner is being served or there's going to be an event. But showing up 30 minutes late that's just being late, and it's rude, and it's holding other people up. So these are all energetic things in yourself. If you're somebody who does not respect somebody else's boundaries, that's because there's something going on in you. It could also be because of something going on in the other person, like I don't feel deserving and worthy for people to respect my boundaries. Something like that, because if you're putting that out, you're receiving that back. Or if you haven't expressed your boundaries clearly, how on earth are people supposed to know? But time is a real big one, because of, like I said earlier, about scheduling time, like from this time to this time, I'm working. From this time to this time, I'm exercising. On the weekends, I'm not going to read I'm not available after a certain time at night because there's a relationship going on or whatever. Because when you have clear boundaries, especially in relationship, I mean, how would it be if you're in relationship and that evening time is set aside for your partner, but then you take a work call? How do you think that's going to make your partner feel? They're going to feel devalued and not seen, that you don't care about them, that work is more important than they are. I mean, if you don't set clear boundaries, express them and live to them, and teach other people around you to respect your boundaries, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment and rejection and resentment. And then, of course, there's those non-negotiable boundaries. They're the deal breakers, especially in relationship. So whatever they're going to be, maybe it's drugs, alcohol, addiction, maybe infidelity for some people, depending on what is a deal breaker for you. Now, a lot of people are too rigid in relationships and put all of their boundaries in the non-negotiable. You must be this, you must be that. But then you're setting yourself up for rejection and being alone really for the rest of your life, because being with other people, we need to be flexible and we need to be accepting and we need to be allowing. But there's a fine line about that. So when you understand somebody's boundaries and check in with people, there's also social boundaries. I didn't mention that. Social boundaries, like, I just keep thinking of when my kids were little babies and we were riding the tube, the London Underground, and the train was jiggling. They were like 2 and 4 or something, and they just thought this was so much fun, and they were laughing and laughing, and they laid on the floor of the tube. I know, utter filth, but I was just letting them be kids, and they were laughing hysterically, and everybody in the car started laughing because little kids, infectious laughter, they were having so much fun. But imagine if us grown-ups decided to, oh, well, this tube's so much fun, I'm going to lay on the floor of this tube and laugh my head off. Well, that would be breaking a social boundary, perhaps, because people would probably think that we were mentally deranged, which I don't really know why. Why can children do it, but adults can't? But anyway, I digress. That would be breaking a social boundary. Or if you're saying things out of turn, or if you're talking too loud. Oh, I've got one. Again, on the train, if you're in the quiet car and you're there on your phone, hello, and you're having a conversation when people are in the quiet car for a reason. Or even trains, again, anytime you're in public situations, if you're eating really smelly food that you've brought on, like, it's sort of, whoa. So there's all sorts of ways that you can break social boundaries that are not written or not really expressed, but if they affect other people around you. What about that person who gets on the lift with you who is smothered in really oppressive perfume, right? And everybody's there gagging because they've got too much stuff on. So there's all sorts of ways you can break social boundaries. But really the boundaries that I think are most important are these emotional and mental boundaries, because this is about respect and this is about seeing other people and expressing yourself clearly, putting your boundaries out there to be seen, and respecting other people and having other people respect you too. And so we're all guilty a little bit of breaking other people's boundaries, maybe because they haven't been expressed, or maybe in younger years when we didn't know any better. But this is something to really pay attention to and watch out for, because if you have clear boundaries and can express them, and if you live by your boundaries, not rigidly, because people do make mistakes, then you're going to attract other people who have similar clear boundaries, who can express them. When you don't express your boundaries clearly, you're going to attract other people who don't express their boundaries clearly. And what happens then is that people start stepping across that line. And then you're getting really pissed off with them, and you don't know why people keep doing this for you. So if this is a pattern, this is something you really need to look at with yourself. I also think that we have personal boundaries. So, and my dad and I have been talking about this a lot because I'm definitely a chip off of his old block, a whole old block. And he's extremely self-disciplined and takes very good care of his body and his health and all of this. So last night my kids were here and their dad, and we had hors d'oeuvres, cheese and crackers and pizza, and it was just a big pig out fest, and it was really, really fun. And of course we stuffed our faces and ate all of it with joy and glee. But Daddy was like, today we have to get back on the program, right? Because we both eat quite healthily. And I said, yes, I know. And so that's like, if you kept pigging out, then you're breaking a personal boundary because you're letting yourself down. You're not going to feel good about yourself. But if you just have a one-off night because there's a party or something's going on, but then you get back on the program, then you're being flexible with yourself. So it's about how we hold ourselves to account and how we hold others to account. So really, boundaries are about respect and flow. So I hope that that has enlightened some of you, because it helps make every relationship you have, from the one you have with yourself to your colleagues, your friends, your lovers, your children, your parents, better and better and better. And there's all sorts of other really cool stuff that I would love to tell you about in my 12-week online course, From Fear into Love. And if you're on my mailing list, you will have received the playback recording of the webinar. There's so much information on there. I mean, I got called out because I was running out of time. I wasn't sticking to the time boundary because I just get sucked into the work. And it's so exciting and interesting to me. And I really want to share this level of consciousness with all of you so that you can stop struggling with the day-to-day, so that you can start living a happy, easy life and flow. Why are you still sweating the small stuff when you have a choice in this? And I have answers. So book a call with me. It's free, 20 minutes. You'll probably have an aha moment on the call, and it's fun. I want to get to know you, and let's see if we can work together. It would be just absolutely wonderful. I love you all so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.